Have you ever struggled on what to do next with your animal? Well, I got Lara Joseph here, and she's going to show us how to set up a good training plan between you and your animal. Hey, Lara Joseph.
Hey Trevor, good to be on here. Thanks for the invite.
I'm so happy that you got the chance to come on here. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do over at the Animal Behavior Center and what that's all about?
Well, here at the Animal Behavior Center, and this is what I tell everybody, we've kind of let the world shape us what they want us to be within so many aspects. What we are, as you know, you hear me say it a lot, we're an international educational center, and we teach people about behavior online, working with animals using positive reinforcement and applied behavior analysis. What I do is take the science of behavior and put it into realistic, everyday terms that anybody with examples, that anybody from who cares for a domestic animal such as a dog, a zoo animal, wildlife rehab animal, and explain this is why behavior happens, this is why undesired behavior is continuing, and this is how we change it.
Yeah. It takes a lot to do that with not just one species, but multiple species.
I work with zoos. I work with
Awesome.
wildlife rehab centers, so the amount of animals is great.
Yeah. So that's so you've worked with all different types of species, is what you're trying to say. Yeah.
Domestic, undomestic. I mean, a lot of parrots.
Yeah.
A lot of animals that come into wildlife rehab centers that stay for education animals.
And what's crazy about that? I don't know if you've heard this before, but bless his soul, Steve Irwin. When he's worked with all the different animals, the one animal he was most afraid of was parrots.
That's what I hear.
So that takes a lot. You know, the parrots are very intelligent. I love watching you work with all those different types of animals, especially your birds and how they have a special relationship with you. And I think that's what's really cool about watching you and all these shows that you do, that you actually look at the relationship between you and the animal and how that's unique for each individual relationship.
Sure. And you know, Trevor, you know just as well as I do, I watch your amazing work.
Thank you.
You know that training, the type of training that we both do, to me, it's the best form of communication that I've found with any animal. So a lot of the animals that I work with, like right after this interview, I'm going to work with the giraffe.
Awesome.
This type of training, the giraffe doesn't understand what's necessarily coming out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
It understands the antecedents, the behaviors, and the consequences of our interactions. And that's how you build really strong working relationships with the animal, whether it's domestic or undomestic.
Yeah, I was with my interview with Ken Ramirez that I had. He was talking about, like, you know, you can't really build a relationship with butterflies, he's kind of joking. I mean, you are kind of building a relationship with every animal you work with, depending on how you control their antecedents. And so it's really nice to look at it in that aspect. Like, you have to find out what the animal's needs are before going into training. You have to know what they want, what their primary needs are, and use that to help communicate to them.
Sure. I mean, I never knew I could care so much about an alligator, but me training that alligator, I have no idea what that alligator's feelings are towards the alligator sitting next to it, the meat sitting in front of it, or me. But I know that I have a respect and relationship with this alligator now.
And I think that's just in general in the whole animal world right now is in a whole new point where we're understanding that these aren't just like robots that we're working with, that they do have emotions and they do have feelings and they do have needs. And it's really cool to see that our industry grow right now, to say, you know, yeah, an alligator isn't just a bloodthirsty creature. It actually has thoughts and feelings. So
and they're just as unique as you and I.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
What's your very first step before working with any animal or walking into a room with an animal that you're about to work with?
Sure. I observe it. Yeah. I observe it from a distance. Especially a lot of the animals that I work with, I've never, not many of them. I don't have any relationship with them. I have no history with them.
Yeah.
I may not even have a history of working with that species of animal. So what I watch is how they respond to their environment. And I will do that depending on the animal, Trevor. depending on the size of the animal.
Yeah.
I may do that for several minutes. I may do that for several days. It just depends. And so I'll observe them from a distance and try to identify what calm looks like.
Okay.
Try to identify what it looks like when they're afraid of something or they're not comfortable with something. Um, because usually that's how I start identifying reinforcers and punishers.
That's
Obviously, trying to stay away from the punishers and use as much reinforcers as possible to get my proximity to that animal.
I know this, and I know you know this, but for our audience here, what's the difference of using punishers versus reinforcers, and why would you want to rather stick with reinforcing behavior versus using using punishment and using things that they don't like to do?
If I'm trying to build a relationship with that animal, I'm trying to pair myself with as much positives as possible, versus if I'm going to use force, punishment, and coercion, that's not going to make the animal want to be with me. It's not going to, I could definitely be cueing behavior when I approach, and it's probably not going to be one that I want to cue. So when I pair myself, and this is what I tell a lot of people, after my observations of watching the animal,
Yeah.
I identify the animal's reinforcers. I try to build that list of reinforcers as quick as possible, because as soon as the environment changes, the animal's behavior changes. And if reinforcer A doesn't work, I need to go on down the line to see what does. Um, I tell a lot of people, when I first begin training several of the animals that I work with, um, I have no value to that animal. So I need to pair myself, sometimes, not all the time, with the most valuable food reinforcers.
Yeah.
And then over time, once you're continually pairing yourself with the animal positive reinforcers, what I personally see start to happen is when I'm paired with all the positive,
Yeah.
soon I become one of the reinforcers, and the animal will
Awesome.
start giving me behaviors for the opportunity to engage with me. Whether that's mental stimulation for the animal, comfort for the animal, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I choose to use the positives versus working through force, coercion, or punishment. And I know with several of the animals that I work with, if I'm working with punishers or coercion, Trevor, I am putting myself in a very dangerous situation.
Yeah. With alligators and the giraffe alone, I mean, that's just two like you can name off the top of your head. But even like parrots themselves too. I mean, there's all animals have, their thresholds, and going over the threshold of punishment is very dangerous. I could see that for sure.
I have a lot of people contact me and say, I'm afraid of birds. And I'm like, why? A lot of people
Yeah.
are.
Yeah.
I think it's because they have a different form of transportation than
That's
we do.
true.
You know? And for some reason, people think it's a flying machete that's going over your head. You know what I mean?
Well, at times it could be, but
It could be, which is why I don't want to use the force, coercion, and punishment to make me fly as fast. So last night I was talking to somebody and they said, I'm afraid of birds. And I said, can you tell me why? And she said, they have a big beak. And I said, well, as being afraid of dogs, dogs have a lot of teeth and a more
Yeah.
powerful bite than a bird does. So what is your fear? Um, Anyways, she just said, wow, I've never looked at it that way.
Now she's probably afraid of dogs too. She's like, great. No, I bet she came out of that liking birds better. But yeah, it is very important to make sure that that we realize that even if we can force a behavior on an animal or force them to do something, should we? If you have to force a behavior versus if that animal gets to choose to want to do that behavior, you're going to want the behavior the animal wants to choose, because that's going to be such a stronger behavior. I know for us as humans, for instance, too, if I was forced to do something versus something I chose to do, something I chose to do is I put a lot more passion into. So
Absolutely. And and animals learn quicker for being reinforced for what to do versus what to stay away from.
exactly. And I know you say this all the time in your live streams, and I love it, that's the animal's preferred way of training is, and then they've done scientific studies on that, that using reward-based methods is their preferred way. So, and
Yeah.
that's great. I mean, everybody, you can't beat that. I mean, if you're working with an animal, especially when you're trying to build a relationship with a domestic animal, particularly, you want to choose the training method that they prefer. And because that's going to be much a clearer communication and a lot more fun for both parties.
A lot more fun, and it's going to be more fun for the animal. It's going to be more fun for us, and you're probably going to get a lot more reliable, predictable behavior.
Yeah. Well, Laura, I really appreciate you coming on here. And before we go, I want to make sure to let people know if they want to learn more about behavior. You have a great program on your website on Animal Behavior Center. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Are you talking about the membership program?
Yeah.
Yes, it is it's what I put my heart and soul into. Yeah, I have this is something I've been thinking about for years and finally put into motion. People can become a member here of the Animal Behavior Center. It's you become a virtual member, so it's all online, and it's scheduled live streams showing how to do certain things, how to train things, how to deal with behavior issues, and includes podcasts, webinars.
People, please go check it out. It's great. She has 2 different types of memberships depending on how much you want to learn in one setting, but also it's really cost effective. I mean, you're getting some really great coaching from Lara Joseph here, and the pricing is just phenomenal. So I would definitely encourage you guys to check it out. It's awesome. Thanks for joining us again here, Laura, and I appreciate you being on here.
Thanks, Trevor. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it. It's an honor.
Yes, it was an honor, and we'll have to talk again soon. And what we'll want to make sure to do is head over to her YouTube page, because we're going to do a part 2, and we're going to talk about the importance of why animal enrichment is so important. So make sure to check that out, our part 2, and we'll see you guys over there in just a bit. All right. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and as always, have some fun with your dog.